So joining me in studio right now, I have Dr. Gladys Mwiti and Dr. Oscar Githua. Oscar, you're a forensic psychologist.
Yes, I am.
And Gladys Mwiti, you're actually leading the efforts.
Yes, I am. I'm a clinical psychologist and expert in trauma.
And I know that you're leading the efforts to make sure that the people who are affected at Westgate actually get psychological help.
Yes, I am the chair of the Kenya Psychological Association, and I'm the coordinator of the psychosocial support program linked to the Westgate incident.
You know, today is such a significant day, being the last day of what was at best a very emotional, trying month, right? And we're going into a new month, October, and for a lot of people, either you were directly affected by Westgate, so you end up being very traumatized, but for a lot of ordinary Kenyans, we know we've had the expression that I'm stressed, it's Monday, I'm so stressed.
True.
There are a lot of people who are watching us right now and they're thinking, it's Monday, you know? They're just groaning. But here at the Morning Express, we want you to say, thank God it's Monday. So for the next few minutes, I want you to pay some very close attention. Oscar and Gladys are going to be teaching us how to de-stress. But before that, let's just touch a bit on Westgate. What are some of the efforts that are underway to ensure that anyone who was in the mall, anyone who had a relative, anyone who was a victim actually do get over this?
From the onset, actually all the way from last Saturday, the Saturday of the incident, all the way from that Saturday evening, we started regrouping, getting together as the Kenya Psychological Association. We have prior experience because we managed, I put together the 1998 bombing response together with other psychologists before then involved in Rwanda genocide. So we've been in many situations of trauma. So as soon as we knew the crisis was on at Westgate, we started thinking, what do we do about this? So first thing on Sunday, we sent out an email, Twitter, whatever, to bring together all psychologists who are in the vicinity of the CBD and Nairobi, counselors, and we started actually Sunday morning organizing ourselves. So the very first thing we did was to get everyone trained in the internationally accepted methodology of dealing with a critical incident. This is psychological first aid. So they came, doctors in psychology, diploma holders in counseling, and all of them had to sit down and go through a 1 and a half hour training on exactly what do we do with the Westgate situation.
And I know that Oscar, you're a forensic psychologist.
Yes, I am.
Just what is the difference from an ordinary psychologist?
Well, the beauty of the field of psychology is because we deal with human beings. So as you might imagine, we actually cut across every aspect. So for people who might not know what a forensic psychologist is the best way I like to explain it is look at the forensic system as a justice system, starting from the police, the judiciary, the correction system, and applying psychological principles into those systems. That is what makes us a forensic psychologist. Of course, the most famous way we know forensics is through CSI and stuff like that. And I know everyone who meets me says, so what do? Do you counsel dead people? I say, not really. I actually work and help with police. I select them, I help select them. And in situations like these, together with the partnership of Dr. Mwiti and the rest of the really hard-working volunteer team, I had prior experience, of course, because we have practiced before working with law enforcement and stuff. We knew that we had to deal with security and also with the trauma work that we're going to talk about.
Okay, and just touching on that, she mentioned that there's a term that she used, first aid psychology.
Yes.
Can the rest of us administer that the way with ordinary first aid? If I go to the scene fast as Tamima, I can actually do something to help the person?
No. The psychological first aid is applied psychology. So you apply only that which you know. So you have had to have training actually in psychology or in skills of psychology and applying it towards maybe counseling, clinical, or forensic. So it is a specialized field, just like you can't send me to do a paramedic, support.
But I can listen.
You can, you can listen, you can receive the services, but we're insisting that Kenya deserves the best. So nobody is touching anyone if you do not have prior knowledge that you're going to apply in the field.
And I'm glad you say that Kenyans really do deserve the best.
Absolutely.
And just still on Westgate, being part of the team that is leading up the efforts to ensure that the children who are affected, the adults who are affected, actually don't get too waylaid by this incident. So if there's anyone at home who has someone who was in that building, what are some of the signs that you need to look out for? Because there might be someone who's like, I'm fine, but they really are not.
Well, I could start by saying that there are a few signs that you can tell. One of the most obvious ones is maybe recounting the incident, thinking about it, replaying it in your mind. Others could be like sleeplessness, or even sometimes too much sleep. There's also agitation. You find that people in the house, I ask someone, nipatie kikombe, and they're like, why are you asking me for that? And they're kind of a bit jumpy about it. And then there's a term we use in psychology which we call hypervigilance. Yes. But for the sake of other people, I'm going to say that it's actually just being on alert, like you're being on high alert. Any small thing can really startle you. The other thing is loud noises. We know as human beings that's one of the first instincts you're born with as a fear. And at this moment, when you hear someone shutting the door loudly or doing something, you get startled.
It's got the startle response.
Absolutely, startle response. And also if a car is backfiring, passing by you, or a matatu, the way they're not repaired, it makes a sound, somebody just goes like that. And I want to say something to me. We talked and you said about the people who are in Westgate, then other people at home. I want to also say that people who are watching the incident as it was unfolding have also been experiencing what is a stress response. I've been getting calls, Dr. Muita has been getting calls, the team of over 400 people we've trained have also been getting calls related to what I want to call vicarious experience.
Most definitely. So we have all been affected in one way or another.
Well,
and then I'd like to add, Mima, that there are some of us who are more affected than others, whether we were at Westgate or not, depending on what else has been happening in our lives. Like in the past 1 year, we should look in the past 1 year. And by the way, it is not just bad stress, there can also be youth stress. Youth stress is good stress, but you're stressed anyhow. Take, for example, someone who had a wedding 2 months ago. That person was already tensed up because of the wedding. Okay, they're happy, but it's like, oh my gosh, getting that wedding together, and then comes to Westgate. That person will be more stressed than someone who didn't have a wedding, someone who had someone die, someone who was carjacked before, someone who had a horrible experience, someone who was having a horrible relationship thing going on. So it's like when we talk about stress, it's not just Westgate. Many of us are actually in Kenya stressed right now. Someone who was retrenched, and stuff like that.
Okay. You know what I want us to do right now? If you're watching from home, please tweet me at Miss Tamima. If you have any questions for our guests in studio, I'm going to be taking them later on. But before that, I'm going to teach you the 6 steps of distressing yourself. As you heard, we're all affected. You may not have been in Westgate, but life does get difficult, and sometimes you may find it hard to cope. So for the next few minutes, we're going to teach you how to distress, so to speak. So if you have a pen and paper, it wouldn't hurt if you could take this down. And if you're at home watching and you have any questions, remember you can tweet me at Miss Tamima #Morning Express. So Dr. before we start on the 5 steps of distressing, one final thing, because there were kids in that mall, and we know how you handle an adult is not necessarily how you'll handle a child. So if there's any parent who's watching and probably is trying to figure out, how do I deal with my teenager, how do I deal with my infant, how do I deal with my preteen?
With children, if there's any parent listening right now, please listen to the 5 steps, because the way to deal with a child is to de-stress yourself. A child responds to the safety around them. I don't know, Tamima, if you remember the soldier that carried the baby. That baby was like an angel. It's like, I don't care what's happening around me. I mean, everything was happening, but that child was serene and peaceful because soldier created safety for the baby. So parents create safety. Parents also create a safe place for the child. Nothing should change. Routine should not change. Child bathes the same time, eats the same time as I've always done, goes to school, and so creating that structure helps a child to be safe. And of course, telling the child the truth. If, for example, daddy died or someone died, you don't go saying, oh, they went to heaven or whatever. children don't care about that. They want honesty, responding to the questions the child is asking. So those are some of the ways. Create a safe place, let the child play, routine, and calm yourself down so that you create that safety and the security that the child needs at that point.
Okay, earlier on you made a very valid point. You were like, we were all affected because if you were not there, you were watching it on TV, and probably you'll find that people are consuming those images in a family setting. So you'll find the children are watching it as well. And the first rule of stress is when you're stressed, something has to be stressing you.
Yes.
So rule number one, avoid the situation.
Absolutely. I would like to say, and I would like him to add that Kenya, right now, we are actually re-traumatizing, sorry to use the word trauma. We are not even, by the way, allowing trauma among our professionals. We are not saying you're traumatized. We are not pathologizing. So you should, number one, not pathologize anyone. It's like you are there, oh my gosh, you're traumatized. No,
not really.
No one is traumatized. We don't know who is traumatized yet. We shall know 3-4 weeks down the line, because people are going to recover slowly, just like the body when it's hurt, if you have a wound, it starts to heal itself. People have capacity to heal. That's why we giving them the tips on management of stress. So what you're saying is that do not traumatize yourself. Do not engage in watching too much media, watching pictures, reading all the stories, and sitting there talking about the incident over again. Right now, Kenya, we have so many unanswered questions about Westgate. Do not sit there and start digesting and checking what happened. Stop. Do not actually undermine your own healing by watching pictures and talking to stories that do not make any sense. Concentrate on healing.
Okay.
And also to add on what Dr. is saying, I also do know a lot of my friends and other people who've been digesting a lot of social media, conspiracy theorists, all these people who've been talking about what was inside, what was going on and all that stuff. Honestly, as a nation, if we want to start healing, that is the stuff we want to start shunning. As a matter of fact, anyone who's been sending me WhatsApp messages, text messages, calling me, telling me what is the real story about what happened, you know something we don't know, all that stuff, you know what I've been telling them? Our concern as psychologists at this moment is to support the pain and the suffering of Kenyans, and we will not engage in any of the speculation, will not engage in re-traumatizing people by telling them stories we really do not know. People could speculate, but we really do not know. And we are agents of healing. We're not agents of chaos or confusion, and we refuse to do that.
I like that. So the agents of healing have said you have to say no, you have to avoid hot button topics, and you also have to take control of your environment. And still on taking control of your environment, how do you alter the situation? Because we're coming from a very heightened emotional situation, and right now, thankfully, it's been resolved, right? So there are a lot of all these questions, and as much as you may say that don't ask questions, it's in our nature as humans. We're all very curious. So how do we alter this situation such that you kind of find a middle ground between my need to know and my right to know?
I think we are Kenya is moving towards a rights generation. They have a right to know, even from the media, by the way. Absolutely. They have a right to know where are the missing persons. They have a right to know. Now, right to know does not follow me in my sitting room when I read the pushing for the right to know and actually know how I'm doing right thing. So let's not re-traumatize one another. Okay? Now, it is actually making a choice. Just as you make a choice, food is on the table, what do I need to eat today? So deliberately cognitively choosing the right environment, moving away from groups of people that are saying what happened, like he's coming up with the conspiracy theories. Choosing to take a walk when I'm stressed. Choosing actually to go and do some exercise, swim, go to the gym, treat yourself. It is all called, we call it a psychology, self-care. No one can do self-care for me, only me. So taking charge of my own healing, choosing environments, choosing friends. Someone said that we become the average of every 5 people we hang out with. Now, if you hang out with the guys that are pessimists and the conspiracy theory guys, whatever, you go to bed with a huge fat headache that actually you asked for yourself.
Okay, and there's, of course, when it comes to mental health, they say you need to express yourself, you need to express your feelings, right? But obviously, this situation is a very unique one.
Absolutely.
So for you guys, what advice would you give us as the general public when it comes to expressing ourselves?
What I would first of all say is that our culture generally has not allowed us to express ourselves, mostly maybe for men than women. For men, we feel like if we say something, we're going to be weak. And for women, it's the norm. Women always express themselves. And I always tell people the reason why I think they're more mentally ill men than women is because men, we tend to bottle up things. But here's the thing. In expression, there's two people. There's a person expressing and there's a person listening. I'll give you a good example. I was talking to a family that had lost something or someone in the place, and there have been examples of someone saying, I lost a child. Then someone insensitively replies to them and says, you can get another one. What I'm saying is this, is that as a society, we also need to learn how to listen. And also, if someone says something we think is silly or whatever from the whole thing, they start saying like, I don't think I want to go shopping ever again. And then someone says, oh, really? So what are you going to be eating? You know, the best thing to do is to just listen, sit there. We want to start teaching the country empathy. It is a human characteristic that we can all embody without even being psychologists or counselors. And I think that would go a long way in helping us express ourselves. When we feel safe, when a man talks to someone, don't say, what kind of a man are you? You're weak. Just listen to him, because that might be the only chance he'll ever talk to you honestly and openly about his feelings.
Okay, and still on focusing on the positive, how do we accept the things that we can change and the things that we can't change?
Primarily, we should not make ourselves God. You know, some of us think that we have the power to control every direction of our life. We do not. There are things in this world you cannot control. And so, you know, with the acceptance, there are many people right now who are going through what you call survivor guilt. It's like, why did I allow my pregnant wife ever to go shopping on that morning? I should have gone shopping myself. Now, it is actually false guilt. Nobody could have known, nobody could have controlled the Westgate situation. So do not make yourself God. Let's accept our limitations, realize there are things we don't know, even the many questions you are asking now. There are so many questions in life without answers. Can we live with the unknowing? Choose to live with the unknowing and believe that there's someone higher than me. Someone put my body together, put our world together. He is called God. He is overall. There are things I don't even need to know right now. And I can make a choice and move on with my life, celebrate the good things about me, give thanks about the Westgate. Like, I have my son, I lost my daughter. Her life is gone, but I still have my family. I can move on and make the best of what I have right now. Cognitive, deliberate choice to move on.
Well said. And still on moving on, because we know that to distress, you have to engage in a lot of extracurricular activities. So as a nation, what are some of those things that we need to actually decide, you know what, we need to go do this? Because there are some people who are now holed up in their houses. They're not leaving the house. You see the children, they can't go beyond the gate because of ABCD. And as you say, probably there's a heightened sense of, I need to stay safe. I don't trust public places. But as you say, life has to go on. Yeah.
Before he says how to, let me say that all these reactions, by the way, are normal.
Yes.
What you're doing as a psychological group is to say it's normal to be held in right now.
Absolutely.
It's normal to want to hold your children. They should not go to school. However, life has to go on. And Dr. Oscar will tell us how life goes on.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to talk not as a psychologist, but as another Kenyan. I think we need to go back to those fundamentals of what makes a society great. Caring for your neighbor, caring for your people in the house. This incident has probably given us a chance to actually start rediscovering ourselves as a nation, as a caring nation. It's time to just actually start doing that. Talking to people who you like and people who you actually can feel supported around. That's one of the things we can do. Of course, we've talked about the gym and swimming and stuff like that, but for people who cannot afford those things, a normal walk actually helps bring down the levels of adrenaline in your body and actually helps you start becoming more relaxed. Activity is really good for the body, whether we like it or not. Yes, driving is a good idea, but once in a while, Let's do that work. Exactly.
Let me say some things we should not do. One of the things that many people do is run to a doctor. I'm not sleeping, and the doctor puts them on medication. As psychologists, as psychosocial support team for Westgate, medication is the very last resort we go to. We try all the things you're talking about first, and then we go to a doctor and pass through the psychologist to go to a psychiatrist. In this nation, we have psychologists and we have psychiatrists, and we should not confuse the two. Psychiatrists deal with the mentally ill people, and usually they heal you with a pill. Very few psychiatrists have the training to actually do psychotherapy or do counseling or whatever. Psychologists will get you walking, get you out practicing how to walk until you fly. And so we need to be very careful and also know who is a psychologist, who is a psychiatrist. We are getting a lot of misrepresentation. And as I said, please, Kenya deserves the best. Can people honor their professions and do what they're supposed to do so that we don't confuse the nation?
I love that. Well said. Kenya definitely does deserve the best. Yeah. And finally, what's the importance of eating well? You know, having a healthy lifestyle. Because you might be too stressed, now you find you're just eating junk food or you're not even eating at all.
I think let me stress here that we have what we call stress hormones that hit the system soon after a critical incident. It is what causes you to jump 5 feet, although like me, I can't do 3 feet either. You know? So those stress hormones need to be flushed out of the system. So drink a lot of water to flush, just like you go to the bathroom and flush the system. Eat well, give nutrients to the brain. You know, 3 meals a day, you don't miss any, even if it's a banana, don't stop. Otherwise you get acid in your tummy because the body is programmed to digest and send food to the brain. So eating well, drinking lots of water, nutritious meals, lots of fruit and veg, you know, and generally keeping the body strong.
Okay, and this is definitely a long discussion that we most definitely cannot cover within just this show. And earlier on I had asked you to go on Twitter and at least tweet me your questions, which I'll be asking the good doctors in studio. I have here someone, this is from Kiri Her on Twitter. She's saying, your mom is watching right now and loving the discussion, but she missed the guest intros, so please ask them to introduce themselves.
That's a good one.
So you'll have to introduce yourselves because she's watching. She wants to know who's giving this solid golden advice.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Gladys Mwiti. I'm a PhD clinical psychologist and trauma specialist. For my work, I practice at Oasis Africa Center for Transformational Psychology, Chair, Kenya Psychological Association, and actually a member of the Board of Directors, International Society for Traumatic Stress. Right now, I'm coordinating, I'm the chair of the Psychosocial Support Program for Westgate.
My name is Dr. Oscar Gidua. I am a forensic psychologist, one of the very few in the whole continent. I'm also working with Dr. Mwiti at this point on the psychosocial support regarding the Westgate incident, and I'm also an assistant professor of psychology at USIU, teaching the doctoral and master's program.
Okay, someone else asking here that, how do you avoid people who stress you out? This question is from Shiks Mwangi.
Hey, we have a choice to choose our friends. We should not need people too much until we have to sit with them as they stress us. So taking the courage to walk away. And then secondly, taking the courage to build new connections if your old connections are stressing you. Places like church is a place to hang out with and get good friends. Go bowling, go walking, but make connections that do not stress you. Courage to walk away. And if things are difficult, Mamu akizidi utamwona daktari to teach you socialization skills if you lack any. But you've got to make a choice to walk away from stress.
Although that's a really interesting, sorry to cut you. It's a very interesting question. How do you avoid people who stress you? The reality is sometimes you might not be able to avoid people who stress you. The way what I say is perception is reality. So how I think of something can also determine how I feel about it.
True.
So if I look at someone as stressful, and when I see them coming across the corner, my stress levels start going up. Now, maybe as a country, we need to start thinking, okay, that person who is, how do I start associating them with something different? I'm not saying when you see them, start thinking of puppies, but what I'm saying is, if you see them coming across, start realizing you are at risk of starting to feel stressed, and then deliberately make the effort, like Dr. Mwiti said, you make the choice yourself. I will not be stressed.
Let me add also Kenya, please. We are one. Kenyans, I should wake up every morning intent to touch someone with healing, with joy, with laughter. Yeah.
And it starts with a smile.
And yeah, and some of us are so pessimistic. It's like,
Smile.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I walk in wearing a red pair of shoes. It's like, hey, Teddy, you look good in red. I mean, please, can we? So,
But on that, you do look good in your animal.
oh, thank you so much.
Okay, now somebody else asking, still on adapting to the stressor, how do you focus on the positive? Because I know there's this expression, I'm too blessed to be stressed, but it's easier said
Than done.
than done. Yeah.
There's something we call grounding in psychology. Now, I know that some of us may actually be having it rough right now. We lost property, lost relatives, whatever, and we wake up in the morning, people are laughing, and we're asking, what is there to laugh about? Okay? And it is like waking up and focusing, like, walk out and look at a leaf or a flower. Just focus, because the mind is everywhere. We call it grounding. Look at the flower, focus on it, breathe in and out several times, get some oxygen in the brain. Focus again. So it's like focus our minds on things that are positive. Now, we know the more we do something, the more we get better at doing it. Listening to music and focusing on the words of that music. Not, of course, the stressful, metallic kind, but relaxing music. So getting things, taking a hot cup of tea, reading a nice book, putting up my feet and just thinking of good things. It has again to be a choice.
And those are the simple things in life that anyone can enjoy. Okay, so thank you very much, Daktari, for coming to studio. Very insightful conversation. I'm sure that everyone who's watching has definitely learned a lot from you. And as we said, thank God it's Monday and we are too blessed to be stressed. Right now, I'm going to hand over back to Sophia.
Right, and maybe before we continue, we're going to take a short break shortly, but there's something you say that's very important about children and what they're told, especially when they've lost a loved one. You're talking about them not being told their loved one has gone to heaven, because mostly, that's what they're told. How then do you suggest somebody take them through what has happened in a way that they can handle, but also still understand the gravity of the situation?
Okay, what we advise is calm down to the level of the child. Never talk to a child when you're looking down on them. Sit down, sit on the floor, look at them in the eye, okay? And say, what is it you asked me once again? Do not answer a question the child is not asking, because it means they're not at the level of understanding.
So if they say, what happened to mommy, what do you say?
Mommy died. Do you understand what that means?
If they don't understand, what do you say?
Well, children will pull you until you give them what connects with their psyche right then. And then children ask the same question over and over, today, tomorrow, the other day. Don't say, I told you yesterday. It's because they are building their understanding. Answer when they ask honestly, using child understanding or childish language.
All right, thank you. I needed that clarification because quite a number of children have been affected, and I think for most parents and relatives, the struggle is always how to break it down to them and take them through the whole understanding of what has happened.
Let me say quickly that the Kenya Red Cross, this program is under the Kenya Red Cross. We are continuing. We're so happy, and we are today briefing the press at Uhuru Park at 11 to tell them the next phase, what's going to look like.
What's going to look like. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very useful information there. You're on the Morning Express right here on KTN. When we come back, this is the book we'll be talking about. It's Nuggets for Greatness, authored by Felix Onyango. Stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.